Triple H just committed the most ruthless act of corporate betrayal in WWE history by destroying Seth Rollins' career in the most brutal and humiliating way possible. What happened when Triple H stripped Seth of his championship and fired him from WWE wasn't just shocking business, it was the complete annihilation of someone who trusted corporate leadership only to get stabbed in the back by the very people he helped build into power. And if you think this was just business as usual or creative differences, you're either completely naive or you don't understand that we just witnessed the most calculated destruction of a loyal wrestler's life and legacy. But here's the question that should make every WWE wrestler absolutely terrified of their own job security: how can anyone trust Triple H's leadership when he's willing to destroy someone as loyal and valuable as Seth Rollins over reasons so petty and vindictive that it proves corporate WWE has become a dictatorship where one man's ego matters more than years of dedication and service? Because what happened to Seth isn't just unfair, it's a warning to every wrestler that no amount of loyalty or success can protect them from Triple H's corporate tyranny. Hashtag the meeting that ended Seth's WWE career forever. Let me break down the most shocking corporate assassination in wrestling history, because what led to Seth Rollins losing everything he had worked for wasn't the result of poor performance or contract disputes, it was pure corporate revenge from someone who couldn't handle being challenged or questioned by a wrestler with principles. According to multiple backstage sources, the fatal meeting between Triple H and Seth Rollins began as what Seth thought was a routine discussion about upcoming storylines and championship directions, completely unaware that he was walking into a corporate execution chamber. Seth entered that meeting with his typical professionalism and collaborative attitude, prepared to discuss creative directions and business strategies like the company-first performer he had always been throughout his WWE career. But Triple H had clearly prepared for something entirely different, not a collaborative business discussion, but a one-sided corporate termination designed to destroy Seth's career while sending a message to every other wrestler about what happens when you question authority. The betrayal began immediately when Triple H made it clear that this wasn't a discussion or negotiation, but a corporate sentencing where Seth's fate had already been decided by someone whose ego couldn't tolerate any challenges to his absolute authority. Hashtag the reasons that exposed Triple H's true character. What Triple H cited as justification for destroying Seth Rollins' career were so petty and vindictive that they immediately exposed the current WWE leadership as more concerned with personal power than business success or wrestler welfare. The primary reason for Seth's termination wasn't poor performance, low ratings, or business failures, it was allegedly Seth's failure to fully embrace creative direction and his questioning of management decisions during recent storyline discussions. In other words, Seth Rollins was fired for doing exactly what any intelligent performer should do: asking questions about creative direction and offering input about storylines that would affect his character development and career trajectory. The secondary reasons were even more ridiculous: complaints about Seth's attitude during meetings and his lack of enthusiasm for certain storyline directions that he felt didn't serve his character or the company's best interests effectively. These pathetic justifications prove that Triple H has created a corporate environment where blind obedience is more valuable than creative collaboration, intelligent input, or genuine concern for product quality and business success. Hashtag the championship stripping. That added insult to injury. Triple H's decision to strip Seth Rollins of his championship before firing him wasn't just business necessity, it was deliberate humiliation designed to destroy Seth's legacy and send a message about what happens to wrestlers who don't show proper submissiveness to corporate authority. Seth had held the championship with dignity and professionalism, defending it regularly and creating compelling storylines that elevated both the title's prestige and WWE's overall programming quality and fan engagement. But Triple H's ego couldn't allow Seth to leave WWE as a champion, because that would have suggested that someone could question authority and still maintain their dignity and professional standing within the wrestling industry. The public nature of the championship stripping was calculated humiliation designed to damage Seth's reputation and future career prospects by suggesting that he was somehow unworthy of championship status. This vindictive approach to handling personnel decisions proves that Triple H's leadership style prioritizes personal revenge over business logic, professional fairness, or basic human decency toward loyal employees. Hashtag the backstage reaction that proved everyone was shocked. According to multiple WWE sources, the backstage reaction to Seth Rollins' firing was one of genuine shock and widespread concern about what this decision meant for job security and creative freedom throughout the entire roster. Multiple wrestlers reportedly approached WWE management privately to express their confusion and concern about the sudden termination of someone who had been a model employee and valuable company asset for years. Veterans and newer performers alike allegedly expressed worry that Seth's firing established precedents that could affect anyone who might question creative decisions or offer alternative perspectives during storyline development meetings. The most telling aspect of the backstage reaction was the number of wrestlers who immediately began modifying their own behavior and input during creative meetings, recognizing that honest collaboration had apparently become a fireable offense. WWE's own creative team members reportedly expressed confusion about losing a performer who had been consistently professional, collaborative, and valuable for both storyline development and overall programming quality. The corporate hypocrisy. That this decision exposed Triple H's decision to fire Seth Rollins exposed massive hypocrisy within WWE's corporate structure, considering that Seth had been doing exactly what company leadership claims to want from their performers, being invested, engaged, and thoughtful about creative directions. For years, WWE management has publicly stated that they want performers who care about their characters, storylines, and the overall quality of the programming rather than just showing up and going through the motions. Seth Rollins embodied exactly these qualities. He was deeply invested in his character development, genuinely concerned about storyline quality, and willing to collaborate constructively on creative directions that would benefit everyone involved. But when Seth actually demonstrated these qualities by asking questions and offering input during creative discussions, he was punished rather than rewarded for showing the kind of engagement that WWE claims to value. This hypocrisy proves that WWE's corporate culture has become toxic, where public statements about valuing wrestler input are just propaganda designed to hide an authoritarian system that demands blind obedience. The business implications that make this even worse. From a pure business perspective, Triple H's decision to fire Seth Rollins represents catastrophic corporate management that prioritizes personal ego over proven revenue generation and audience engagement metrics. Seth had been one of WWE's most reliable performers in terms of television ratings, social media engagement, merchandise sales, and overall audience investment throughout his championship reign and recent storylines. His firing eliminates a proven draw and valuable corporate asset for reasons that have nothing to do with business performance, fan reaction, or revenue generation, the metrics that should actually determine personnel decisions in entertainment companies. The precedent this sets for other talented performers is devastating for WWE's ability to retain top talent who might conclude that success and loyalty provide no protection against arbitrary corporate decisions based on personal politics. Corporate sponsors, television partners, and other business stakeholders who valued Seth's professionalism and drawing power will likely question WWE's decision-making process and long-term stability as a business partner. The fan betrayal that cannot be forgiven. WWE's treatment of Seth Rollins represents a fundamental betrayal of fans who had invested emotionally and financially in his character development, championship reign, and ongoing storylines over years of dedicated support. Fans who bought tickets to see Seth perform, purchased his merchandise, and engaged with his social media content were given no consideration in this corporate decision that prioritized Triple H's ego over audience satisfaction and investment. The sudden termination of Seth's storylines and character development leaves countless fans feeling cheated out of the resolution and continuation of narratives they had been following with genuine emotional investment. Wrestling fans who invest in performers expect some level of consistency and respect for their emotional and financial support, but WWE's arbitrary personnel decisions prove that fan investment means nothing when it conflicts with corporate politics. The long-term damage to fan trust and willingness to invest emotionally in WWE storylines could be enormous if audiences conclude that their favorite performers can be eliminated at any time for reasons having nothing to do with entertainment value. The industry reaction that validates the criticism. The wrestling industry's reaction to Seth Rollins' firing has been overwhelmingly critical of Triple H's decision-making and concerned about what this precedent means for wrestler welfare and creative freedom throughout professional wrestling. Multiple wrestling veterans have publicly expressed shock and disappointment about the termination of someone who had been a model professional and valuable industry contributor throughout his career. Other wrestling promotions have reportedly reached out to Seth immediately, recognizing that WWE's loss could be their significant gain if they can secure the services of such a proven talent and professional performer. Wrestling journalists and industry analysts have been questioning Triple H's business acumen and leadership capabilities, noting that eliminating valuable talent for personal reasons represents fundamental mismanagement of corporate resources. The universal industry recognition that Seth's firing was unjustified and counterproductive proves that WWE has made a decision that damages their reputation throughout the broader wrestling community and business environment. The legal implications that WWE ignored Seth Rollins' firing raises serious questions about employment law, contractual obligations, and corporate responsibility that WWE's legal team should have considered before allowing personal politics to drive personnel decisions. If Seth was terminated for questioning creative directions or offering input during storyline meetings, it could constitute wrongful termination depending on the specific terms of his employment contract and applicable labor laws. The public nature of his humiliation through championship stripping and corporate statements could create additional legal exposure related to defamation, damage to professional reputation, and interference with future business opportunities. Employment law experts have noted that terminating valuable employees for reasons unrelated to job performance or business necessity often creates legal vulnerabilities that companies should avoid through proper human resources procedures. WWE's apparent disregard for potential legal consequences suggests that Triple H's personal motivations outweighed proper corporate governance and legal risk assessment when making this termination decision. The precedent that terrifies every WWE wrestler. Perhaps the most dangerous aspect of Seth Rollins' firing is the precedent it establishes for how Triple H will handle any future disagreements or challenges from wrestlers who might question creative decisions or offer alternative perspectives. Every current WWE performer now understands that job security depends more on political compliance than on professional performance, audience reaction, or business value to the company. The chilling effect on creative collaboration and honest input during storyline development could be devastating for WWE's programming quality if performers become afraid to offer genuine thoughts or constructive criticism. Wrestlers who might have previously felt comfortable expressing concerns or suggestions about their characters now understand that such input could be viewed as insubordination worthy of termination. The long-term impact on WWE's creative process could be catastrophic if the fear of arbitrary firing prevents genuine collaboration and honest communication between management and talent. Hashtag the locker room atmosphere that's been destroyed. According to backstage sources, Seth Rollins' firing has created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty throughout WWE's locker room that's affecting morale, creativity, and overall workplace culture in ways that could damage long-term business success. Multiple wrestlers have reportedly modified their behavior during creative meetings, offering less input and avoiding any comments that might be interpreted as questioning or challenging management decisions. The collaborative atmosphere that successful wrestling companies depend on for creative development has allegedly been replaced by an authoritarian environment where performers are afraid to engage honestly with storyline development. Veterans who had previously served as mentors and collaborative partners for younger talent are now reportedly advising caution and compliance over creative engagement and professional honesty. The toxic workplace culture that Seth's firing has created could drive away talented performers who value creative freedom and professional respect over job security in an increasingly authoritarian corporate environment. Hashtag the Seth Rollins response that showed true character. Seth Rollins' public response to his firing has demonstrated the kind of class and professionalism that makes Triple H's decision look even more petty and vindictive by comparison. Instead of attacking WWE publicly or airing personal grievances about the termination process, Seth has maintained dignity and professionalism that highlights the contrast between his character and his former employer's behavior. His statements about the situation have focused on gratitude for opportunities received rather than bitterness about unfair treatment, showing the kind of mature perspective that makes his firing seem even more unreasonable. The grace with which Seth has handled this betrayal only emphasizes how unnecessary and vindictive Triple H's decision was, proving that this was about personal politics rather than any legitimate business or professional concerns. Seth's professional response has earned him widespread respect throughout the wrestling industry while making WWE's treatment of him look even more cruel and unjustified. Hashtag the competition's opportunity that WWE created. WWE's firing of Seth Rollins has created an unprecedented opportunity for competing wrestling promotions to acquire a proven main event talent who brings immediate credibility, fan following, and business value to any organization smart enough to sign him. AEW, NJPW, and other major promotions have reportedly been in immediate contact with Seth, recognizing that WWE's loss could become their significant competitive advantage in the ongoing wrestling promotion wars. Seth's availability on the free agent market represents the kind of opportunity that rival promotions dream about, a proven draw with no legal complications who was released for reasons that make his former employer look unreasonable and vindictive. The promotional value of signing someone who was fired by WWE for questioning creative decisions could be enormous for companies that want to position themselves as more wrestler-friendly and collaborative than WWE's increasingly authoritarian corporate structure. WWE has essentially provided their competitors with both valuable talent and a powerful marketing narrative about treating wrestlers with respect and valuing their creative input and professional perspectives. Hashtag the long-term damage to Triple H's leadership credibility. Triple H's decision to fire Seth Rollins for such petty and vindictive reasons has fundamentally damaged his credibility as a leader and raised serious questions about his fitness for running WWE's creative and personnel operations. The firing proves that Triple H prioritizes personal ego and absolute authority over business success, talent retention, and the collaborative relationships that successful entertainment companies depend on for creative excellence. His willingness to eliminate valuable talent for personal reasons rather than business necessity demonstrates the kind of authoritarian management style that typically drives away top performers and damages long-term organizational success. The precedent he has established through Seth's firing will likely make it more difficult to attract and retain top talent who value creative freedom and professional respect over job security in an increasingly toxic corporate environment. Triple H's reputation within the wrestling industry has been significantly damaged by this decision, with many viewing it as proof that power has corrupted his judgment and made him unfit for leadership responsibility. Hashtag the systematic problems. This decision revealed Seth Rollins' firing exposed systematic problems within WWE's corporate culture that extend far beyond one personnel decision into fundamental issues with how the company operates and treats its most valuable employees. The decision reveals a corporate structure where personal relationships and political compliance matter more than professional performance, business results, or objective talent evaluation. WWE's apparent lack of proper human resources procedures and employment protections leaves all performers vulnerable to arbitrary termination based on personal politics rather than legitimate business concerns. The company's disregard for fan investment in business relationships when making personnel decisions proves that short-term ego satisfaction is being prioritized over long-term business success and stakeholder value. These systematic problems suggest that WWE has developed a toxic corporate culture that could continue driving away valuable talent and damaging business relationships until fundamental changes are made to leadership accountability and decision-making processes. The media coverage that exposed WWE's weakness. Mainstream wrestling media coverage of Seth Rollins' firing has been overwhelmingly critical of WWE's decision-making process and Triple H's leadership, with most outlets questioning the business logic and professional justification for the termination. Multiple respected wrestling journalists have published detailed analyses of how the firing represents poor corporate management and suggests serious problems with WWE's internal decision-making and talent relations. The negative coverage has extended beyond wrestling media into mainstream business publications that view the firing as an example of poor corporate governance and questionable executive decision-making in entertainment companies. The universal media criticism of WWE's handling of the situation has created additional reputation damage that extends the negative impact of the decision far beyond just the loss of Seth's individual contributions. WWE's inability to provide compelling public justification for the firing has made the company look arbitrary, vindictive, and poorly managed to industry observers and business analysts. The historical context that makes this betrayal worse. Seth Rollins' firing becomes even more outrageous when viewed in the historical context of his loyalty, dedication, and valuable contributions to WWE's success over many years of professional service. Seth had been one of WWE's most reliable performers through multiple corporate transitions, creative direction changes, and business challenges, consistently delivering professional excellence regardless of personal preferences or storyline directions. His willingness to work with different creative teams, adapt to changing corporate priorities, and maintain professionalism during difficult periods had made him exactly the kind of employee that successful companies should value and protect. The betrayal of such loyalty and dedication for reasons related to questioning creative decisions represents a fundamental violation of the implicit social contract between employers and valuable long-term employees. WWE's treatment of Seth sends a terrible message to other loyal performers about what they can expect in return for years of dedicated service and professional excellence. The future implications for WWE's talent relations. The precedent established by Seth Rollins' firing will have lasting negative implications for WWE's ability to maintain positive relationships with current talent and attract top performers who value creative freedom and professional respect. Current WWE wrestlers now understand that questioning creative decisions or offering alternative perspectives could result in immediate termination regardless of their value to the company or their professional track record. The chilling effect on honest communication and creative collaboration could severely damage WWE's programming quality if performers become afraid to engage genuinely with storyline development and character creation. Future contract negotiations will likely need to include additional protections for wrestlers who want some assurance that they won't be arbitrarily fired for engaging in normal professional discussions about creative directions. The long-term talent retention problems that this decision could create might force WWE to pay premium prices to convince top performers that the risk of arbitrary termination is worth the financial compensation. The solution WWE should implement, but never will. The obvious solution to the crisis created by Seth Rollins' firing would be for WWE to acknowledge their mistake, reinstate Seth with full apologies, and implement proper corporate governance procedures to prevent future arbitrary personnel decisions. Triple H should publicly apologize for allowing personal ego to override business judgment and commit to creating a more collaborative and respectful workplace culture that values wrestler input and creative engagement. WWE should establish clear employment protections and human resources procedures that ensure personnel decisions are based on objective business criteria rather than personal politics or power struggles. The company should implement regular reviews of management decision-making to ensure that corporate leaders are held accountable for decisions that damage business relationships and employee morale. However, Triple H's ego and WWE's corporate culture make it highly unlikely that they will admit error or implement the systemic changes necessary to prevent future injustices and create a more professional working environment. The industry evolution. This could trigger Seth Rollins' firing by WWE could catalyze broader changes throughout the wrestling industry as other promotions recognize the opportunity to differentiate themselves through more professional and respectful talent relations. Competing wrestling companies could use WWE's authoritarian approach as a marketing advantage, emphasizing their commitment to creative collaboration and professional respect in contrast to WWE's increasingly toxic corporate culture. The incident could accelerate discussions about wrestler unionization and employment protections throughout the industry, as performers recognize the need for collective bargaining to protect against arbitrary termination and workplace abuse. Wrestling industry organizations and regulatory bodies might begin examining employment practices and corporate governance standards to ensure that talented performers receive appropriate protections and professional treatment. The broader entertainment industry could take notice of how WWE's poor talent relations create opportunities for competitors who offer better working conditions and more respectful corporate cultures. Conclusion, the corporate betrayal that changed everything. Triple H's decision to strip Seth Rollins of his championship and fire him from WWE represents the most shocking corporate betrayal in modern wrestling history, proving that personal ego and authoritarian control have replaced business logic and professional decency in WWE's decision-making process. The petty and vindictive reasons cited for Seth's termination expose Triple H as someone whose leadership style prioritizes personal power over business success, talent retention, and the collaborative relationships that create excellent entertainment programming. Seth's firing sends a terrifying message to every WWE performer that no amount of loyalty, professionalism, or business value can protect them from arbitrary termination if they dare to question creative decisions or engage honestly in collaborative discussions. The precedent established by this corporate assassination will have lasting negative effects on WWE's workplace culture, talent relations, and ability to attract and retain top performers who value creative freedom and professional respect. While WWE's loss will undoubtedly become a significant gain for whichever promotion is smart enough to sign Seth Rollins, the damage to WWE's reputation and internal culture may take years to repair, assuming they ever recognize the need for fundamental changes to their toxic corporate environment. Are you as outraged as every wrestling fan should be? Do you finally see that Triple H has created a corporate dictatorship where questioning creative decisions is a fireable offense? Can you believe that WWE destroyed Seth Rollins' career over something as petty as asking questions during storyline meetings? Explode with anger in the comments and tell us exactly how you feel about Triple H's corporate betrayal of one of WWE's most loyal and valuable performers. Are you done with WWE's authoritarian BS, or do you somehow think firing Seth for questioning creative decisions was justified? Demolish the like button if you're furious about Triple H's vindictive destruction of Seth Rollins' career and WWE's toxic corporate culture. Subscribe to WrestlingNewsCC for continued coverage of WWE's corporate failures and industry-changing developments, and share this video with everyone who needs to understand that WWE has become a corporate dictatorship where loyalty means nothing. Seth Rollins' career has been destroyed by corporate revenge, and Triple H has proven that WWE values blind obedience over talent, professionalism, and business success.